Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 20th, and well, another pretty good day after the big drop. We had early morning fade that caught a bid later on, and still with the rising orange, so that was unusual from a DOC standpoint. But as I was talking about before, the falling magenta staying above yellow tends to have a little bit more strength than if it were below than I would have expected lows to break. However, we did come back and retest that low in a very tight, what you would consider compressed double bottom, still above that 38.58, 38.55. Ironic that it hit pretty much almost the identical number. I think it was like 56 was the low, and the NQ did the same thing. The low here was what, 704. Scroll across, if it'll let me. There it goes. It was 689. So just a little bit stronger. So there was buying activity as soon as it got towards that area. They started a little earlier, and just an indication that they like that level from a numeric standpoint, just as far as their valuations and how institution guys tend to look at things a little bit differently. Euro, crazy currency situations. All right, so you get, a giant move up over a penny, the same move back down, and then another one coming back up. Actually, it was almost 1.25 pennies. Doesn't sound like, but in currencies, that is an enormous size move, and it just represents how chaotic the situation for the euro is, and the desperation to get back over that 105 area, because it really becomes, you even saw a lot of panic starting to build as it was dipping in, because you break that parity with the dollar, and there was no guessing where it would stop from there, because it becomes a cascade effect, just like the market. There's a certain level at which things break and they don't bounce back. From a gold setup, pushing up slightly. It's not going to be very sustainable given what we're seeing from that NBI reading at this particular point. That could pivot lower with the red and let the magenta continue higher. Strong from DSD though, with the dip of orange underneath and just the crossover there. It's just probably not going to produce a whole lot. And again, that gets back to the situation: are we facing, after this inflationary run, deflationary pressures, given that you're seeing housing and things like that starting to slow dramatically? And those have ripple effects, because housing represents such a huge percentage of economic activity in that. So keep an eye out for that one. And of course, oil still, it started to come back, but still holding above that, well, in that case, almost 109 now. We might see some relief here as the NBI white starts to take the lead, and we get a DSC cyan over green right there, so that separation maybe we get a little bit more softness from that. But still, anything over 100 is damaging from a growth standpoint, and certainly from an inflationary standpoint as well. Turning to TLT treasuries, of course, in the down move before, we had a huge push into treasuries, lowering the yield. Some of the things started at the beginning of the morning, and then as the market improved, the sell-off keeping it still right within that range. Still what we would consider expected given the rate environment as it sits right now. Looking at Bitcoin, was soft for the morning, and then just like Ethereum, caught a bit later in the day. The same with the market. So I mean, it's interesting how they're starting to trade much more in tandem. You can see from ETH 5K chart here, up and down, and then it slowly started building, and we ended up with those higher set of lows and the turnaround moves each time, with the magenta popping back over and pressing. And that took place all the way to the finish. Of course, a bunch of positive extremes within that, which most of them have filled. We ended up with some yellows right in the middle of it, and then it got about this little right here. Internet is going tricky for the dedicated server. I went ahead and saved us timing, went ahead and marked the horizontal line there. So the retraces came back to the second one, which is this secondary red extreme. The first one being right down there all the way at the 1979 range. So I would still expect that one to fill, even though it is the primary on the breakup. It's oftentimes you get the secondary one fills first. Then you gotta watch for turnaround. In this case, you'll have white leading, so a pivot lower magenta. I would expect that to come back and fill it in place. Turning to the 50K, it was kind of a muddled mess start of the day with the short setup going forward, and then we just kind of consolidated back and forth. But every time there was a lead with magenta going forward, but easy enough every time it faded off. It was literally right around the neutral spacing. Same situation later on, had a nice little pop building right there, and then white overtook it. And at that point, setting better than break even. In fact, I'll probably add that in there as a feature to those just to stop those out, because rarely is that ever a successful situation when white takes the lead over magenta. I'll run the numbers on it, but pretty likely that it's best to take the win, and even if it's a smaller gain. Intraday, you can see what happened here. We ended the day down lower, and then we made a little bit of a low, and they brought it right back up to the 100% level from the previous afternoon right there. And then just before it was in the wee hours of the morning, it just started selling for the Asian session and went all the way through until a little bit before our pre-market, and literally right as the pre-market opened up, boom. There was a lot of buying, and then as soon as that buying, I was posting this one. It was fun trading this one early in the morning hours as well, because it was quite active for as early as it was. And then once we got the ride up, mid-morning, just before the actual, actually we were open at that point because it's Central Time. And then boom, filled it all right back in because I was pointing out positive extremes with that run up. And sure enough, fairly clean from that action. Then we went into a little bit of a ABC kind of concept there where magenta was leading and white overtook it, but then magenta came back and had a turnaround only to break down again. That didn't really break down very much, just kind of dropped just below 50% right there down to 38. Kind of got some support, but what's not to be? Started to break down there, and then it kind of almost pulled a feint on me with the pop back up, but then the next bar was clearly down, and that led to a move all the way towards the 0%. And then we based across until a little bit later on. Started to catch some strength in the business, kind of when all the cryptos turned around as well in that case, and then we ended up with even cleaner sell setups because there was positive streams, but they were much later in the run. So on the first retrace, it kind of filled them. So once we did the second one, it was just a matter of is that magenta going to stay below white, and it did. And it wasn't until over here that it started to pop. That's what I was looking for. That baby right there, the P2 pivot with the magenta dip. Take that one. Even when it flipped over, again, I'm still looking for that because I know I've got higher DOC red readings, and once it breaks down completely, it looks pretty strong, and then we ended up with that orange dip coming back again, and that led to the 100% move right there, and then we took off again for a secondary run, only to do the exact same thing and sell off towards the later part of the day, and pretty much it's right where we closed and back below 39, so it still keeps that 38.50 level and lower. Below the 38.50 gets interesting because I don't think you're going to see much until down at the 32 range before anyone gets excited about anything. So that would be really an interesting dynamic, and I think at this point it would take quite a bit to push it to that level, but we'll see how it goes. Something unexpected, either war related or with oil, the EU or something deciding to ban this, that, and the other. They've tried all of those things. None of it worked. None of their plans have succeeded. All they've done is just damage, U.S. and world supply chain, food supply chains, oil, gas, We've done a number, so interesting as it is. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk to you later.